I wonder if I can take a step even further back, General Ashley, and go back to your comment earlier about great power competition. Obviously, one of the major actors in Syria are the Russians. There's been a growing discussion both in the U.S. and on the Russian side of what that competition looks like. Russians, many have pointed out, have been involved in election meddling in the United States. It's obviously much bigger than that. We see them, and we've seen testimony from social media companies on bots and trolls and advertising, getting involved in politically divisive issues here, not just elections, but gun control, Black Lives Matter, a whole range of issues. What's your sense about the Russian strategy and operations against the United States right now? How would you characterize it?
Yeah, so when you think about great power competition, even if you go back to the Cold War time, right? Any place and that Russia could change an alignment, change a relationship, align it to Russia, that would be something they would do to their favor. They would want to do that. I don't think it's qualitatively that much different now. So where they can get a foothold into a particular nation, develop a relationship affinity to make sure that to work in some degree to distance that particular nation from the U.S. Much with China, with Russia, I spend a lot of my time just trying to read as much background as I can to get an appreciation not only for what's happening today, but understand some of the context of the history that's got us there. And one of the interesting articles that I read was about a concept called reflexive control. And the article that I read dates this back to the time of Lenin and the Bolsheviks. And so reflexive control is where you see information in such a way that you get, not necessarily your adversary, maybe your competitor or someone that you're trying to influence them to make a decision in a certain way where they don't realize you've done that. Where the decision that you've made is exactly the outcome they desire, but you're unwitting that they seeded information in a certain way to draw you toward that decision. And so I thought reflexive control is a very interesting concept, but it's not new. So think about human operations, whether it's dealing with individuals through diplomatic channels, whether it's a Voice of America from the US, whether it is Russian television, and the kind of audiences that you can reach now in a digital age. So as I go from Lenin and the Bolsheviks, which was in the tens to hundreds of individuals trying to gain influence, to where you can near simultaneously, globally, in a digital age, look to seed ideas and shape opinions, reflexive control. So I think the strategy itself is really nothing new. It's just, and it gets into the discussions about, the speed and emergence of technology and what that has meant to some of these kinds of opportunities, and the Russians are leveraging those. Now you talk about the other part, which is really more on the policy side. What have we done? I don't want to talk about vulnerabilities or weaknesses. What I would say but this is really kind of something that is in Putin's DNA as a former KGB agent. It is in his DNA to have these kinds of strategies in which he looks to push out this kind of disinformation. The other part is think about the instruments of power in a democracy and the branches of government we have and the healthy debate that we have about things like this, which is good. It is our strength. But think about the ability and the speed of decision if those decisions and that strategy and that direction can reside in one individual. So therein you have, the challenge of the pace of operations when one individual can drive those kinds of things.